mentioned of some of the local government schemes are now closed to new members, meaning that up to a lot of them, they're mature pension schemes. A lot of work, I would say, I've probably done over the last 5 to 10 years has been very much around de-risking pension schemes, moving them into kind of more matching assets to the liabilities, kind of moving them into be it private assets, infrastructure, or into corporate bonds, gilts, etc. So I think kind of initially, I think you need to, in your own mind, need to be very clear if you are going to put resources into that.
Yeah. So Simon, we are in absolutely no doubt that the opportunity, if there is one, lies with defined contribution and the acceptance of a broader range of managers than has been the case in the past, which really sort of focused on those very specialist managers who could do the liability matching that you were looking for. But now with defined contribution schemes, it seems to have opened up the opportunity to all managers, and of course with that comes a lot of competition. And we also recognise that in the sort of consultancy world, that the dominance of the big three consultants, Aon, Hewitt, and the other one was, there's been a big change there as they have moved towards asset management themselves. And so lots of changes afoot. But I think we recognise that there might be a market in the DB world, and that's where we're sort of looking to
DB or DC?
Sorry, the DC. And we need to sort of know a little bit more about that evolutionary process. And one aspect that obviously is dominating is the sort of the role that the massive life companies are playing in that, and their ability both to do the administration through platforms and their capability.
We're just kind of sort of, I think there's another point you're bringing out there. I'll come back to the consultancy point in a bit. But if we just talk for a bit about the platforms, and I think you're quite right. You're using the term evolution, and DC schemes have been around now probably 20 years. I've been dealing with them, but you do feel now that they are kind of finally evolving into something more mainstream, and we've had kind of the workplace pension areas like that I think has given a kind of additional focus to the type of offering. As regards to the platform, again on the platform though, that to me is kind of the critical part of this. That I think in my own previous pensions seem to move from one platform to another, as BlackRock was sort of platform to Aegon, etc. And you've seen this going on throughout. But I think it's quite critical if you are going into this, you really kind of want to be one of the default funds on that platform, as opposed, and I think this could be quite challenging to start with, as opposed to just being a fund which is kind of a fun choice for members. Because obviously what we're finding is, I think still in excess of 90% of individuals will just go into that default fund. So if you're not part of the platform, the default fund on that platform, I think it's going to be quite challenging to get kind of probably the traction you're looking for. You may have a view if initially you can get on platforms and then try to extend that to a default over a period of time. But I think if I was sat there in your position, I would want a clear kind of, in my mind, how could I get on to being one of the kind of the default managers on that platform.
On that point, Simon, am I right in the past that somebody like Mercer's used to hold a sort of a performance record of all the diversified growth funds, and really they have the register of who were the best performing funds, and that really determined who was going to be the default fund? Or have things?
I think maybe initially it was probably even more simplistic than that. That, for example, you may have had a BlackRock, for example, would have set up. They would have had probably 7 or 8 of their own funds sat on it together with 2 or 3 others. Within that, they probably just wouldn't use their own funds, but the majority of the funds would probably be BlackRock type funds. But yes, you're quite right. Other than that, you would have had as you say, one of the big three consultants especially would